Welcome to today's deep dive. If you are a mid-size construction business owner, specifically operating in that $2 million to $50 million revenue range.
Right, that crucial middle market.
Exactly. And your ultimate goal is to build a scaling legend, well, you have landed in exactly the right place. Today, we are tailoring our entire focus directly to you.
And to the very specific challenges you are facing on the ground right now, because the industry is operating in a profound state of whiplash.
Whiplash is, honestly, it feels like an understatement when we look at the last few weeks.
Yeah, margins are under intense pressure, and clarity is pretty much the single most valuable asset a business owner can possess in this environment.
Completely agree. So our mission for today is to cut straight through the deafening noise surrounding the recent Supreme Court tariff ruling.
It's been loud.
So loud. If you recall, there was about a 48-hour period of massive, almost euphoric industry celebration.
Oh yeah, everyone from the massive general contractors down to the specialized subs thought the pressure was finally
on. Yeah, but then, almost immediately, absolute confusion set in.
total chaos.
Right. So today, we are going to explain exactly what changed, what absolutely did not change, and how you can protect your profit margins in what is arguably the most chaotic tariff environment in modern construction history.
And to give you a really practical, reliable roadmap, we're pulling today's insights directly from a stack of highly credible materials.
We want to get this right.
Exactly. We're analyzing the actual legal rulings themselves, the latest guidance from the Associated General Contractors, the AGC,
Yep.
plus detailed market analysis from Construction Dive, the residential impact numbers from the NAHB, broader economic warnings from Brookings, and real-time commodity tracking.
But before we unpack the history and the math here, let's establish some very clear ground rules for our discussion today.
I think that's incredibly important.
It is. This is a topic that inherently involves Washington, and we need to set firm boundaries on how we are approaching it.
It is a vital distinction to make up front. The sources we are diving into today extensively discuss policies originating from President Trump, recent actions by the current Treasury Department, and rulings handed down by the Supreme Court.
Right.
And we want to explicitly state that this deep dive takes absolutely no political sides. We are not endorsing any political viewpoint, not any administration or any specific trade policy. Our sole, unwavering focus is on reporting the factual, legal, and market changes based strictly on the source material.
We're simply translating the legal reality so you can plan effectively and run your business without getting blindsided.
Precisely. Let's just stick to the facts on the ground.
So let's start with that 48-hour mirage I mentioned earlier. On February 20th, the news broke, and the headlines sounded massive.
They really did.
The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 in the case of Learning Resources, Inc. v. Trump, and the major takeaway was that they struck down reciprocal tariffs.
Right, explicitly stating that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which is commonly known as IEP, does not authorize sweeping global tariffs.
And contractors everywhere just breathed a massive sigh of relief.
A huge one.
But then the vibe shifted completely. What actually happened to kill that celebration?
Well, the reality check arrived through the Treasury Department. Almost immediately after the ruling was handed down, Treasury Secretary Bessent went on camera with a completely different timeline than what the market had just priced in.
Yeah, that was the shocker.
He stated that the 10% global tariff is actually rising to 15% this week.
Which is the opposite of relief.
And furthermore, he explicitly said that tariff rates will, quote, effectively return to pre-ruling levels by August.
Wait, so if Secretary Bessent is publicly committing to an August return, what does that actually mean for a contractor's timeline today?
It means the relief window is just a matter of months, not years. It is a temporary pause at best.
That is wild.
The widespread confusion we are seeing stems from contractors not realizing that different building materials are governed by entirely different legal frameworks.
Yeah, that's the trap.
The Supreme Court ruling was specifically focused on IEPA and those reciprocal tariffs.
I like to think of it like a VIP party, where you heard the bouncer just kicked out all the rowdy guests.
Okay, I like this.
You walk into the room expecting the floor to be completely clear, but you realize the heavy hitters, the ones taking up all the space and drinking all the expensive champagne, never actually left.
They were on a completely different guest list from the start.
Exactly.
And those heavy hitters, in your analogy, are the Section 232 tariffs.
Right.
Unlike the tariffs challenged in the Supreme Court case, Section 232 tariffs are based on national security designations, not IEEPA, so they were completely unaffected by the ruling.
And when you look at what stayed the exact same, the numbers are just punishing.
Very punishing. Steel remains at a 50% tariff. Aluminum remains at 50%.
Wow.
Copper derivatives are sitting at 50%. And lumber remains at 10%.
So if your structural business relies on those materials, the Supreme Court ruling practically changed nothing about your baseline costs.
Nothing at all.
Let's talk about the AGC's guidance for a second, because they put out some incredibly blunt advice regarding refunds.
Oh, the refund rumors.
Yeah. For a brief moment, there were rumors flying around that contractors might be getting money back for materials purchased under the struck-down tariffs. What did the AGC actually say about that?
They explicitly warned contractors not to hold their breath waiting for refund checks.
Just flat out.
Flat out. The legal unwinding of these payments is going to be incredibly complex, if it even happens at all.
Which is a huge if.
Yes. If a business owner budgeted for a magical government refund to save their Q1 profit margins, they are going to be severely disappointed.
Which means we need to look at where the market actually sits today. If the heavy hitters are still dominating the room, where does any actual relief exist?
Construction Dive did a phenomenal analysis on this exact question. They found that the only modest but meaningful reduction in costs is happening in very specific, isolated categories.
Like what?
We are talking about specialty equipment, HVAC systems, and certain electrical fixtures.
So if you are an electrical subcontractor, you might have a brief window of breathing room.
Possibly.
But for the structural teams, the framers, the concrete, and the steel contractors,
For them, it is business as usual, which has become incredibly expensive. According to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report, we are seeing the largest year-over-year increases since early 2022.
it's just brutal.
For January 2026, the producer price indexes, the PPI, are staggering. Aluminum mill shapes are up 33% year over year.
33%.
Steel mill products are up 20.7%. Copper and brass are up 15.7%.
Just pause and think about the reality of a 33% jump on aluminum. If you are a mid-sized contractor doing a $10 million commercial build, and your curtain wall or your window package was priced and locked in a year ago, how does a company absorb that?
They usually can't.
That percentage alone could entirely wipe out a contingency fund and the entire profit fee if the contract wasn't properly protected.
It easily wipes out the profit, especially when you consider the broader context. Construction input prices rose 0.7% month over month in January alone.
Just in 1 month.
Yes, and that was before the latest Section 232 tariffs even took effect. When you aggregate all of these factors, overall construction costs are estimated to rise roughly 8% under current conditions.
So how is this translating to the actual project pipelines? Are owners just absorbing these 8% increases, or are they pulling back?
They are pulling back aggressively. And looking at Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report, 43% of general contractors report having at least one project canceled, postponed, or scaled back strictly due to tariff-related costs.
Almost half of the commercial industry is seeing owners hit the brakes.
Because the numbers simply do not pencil out for their financing anymore, the banks won't underwrite it.
And I imagine the residential side is feeling this just as heavily, if not more so, given the tight margins in home building.
Absolutely. The NAHB released an analysis showing that these tariffs are adding $10,900 to the cost of every single new home.
10 grand extra.
That number is critical because it prices thousands of first-time home buyers entirely out of the market.
Right.
The ripple effect of that is so severe that Brookings has actually published a warning stating residential construction is officially, quote, threatened.
We have laid out a pretty sobering landscape here. It is volatile, it is highly expensive, and the legal relief everyone celebrated was largely a mirage.
It definitely was.
So let's pivot, because this is the core of why we are here today. Hope is not a strategy.
Never is.
The contractors who are going to win this year, the ones who will actually become scaling legends, are the ones actively building systems to manage this volatility right now. Let's open up the contractor's survival playbook.
Let's do it.
What is the very first operational shift a mid-sized contractor needs to make?
The most immediate shift is contractual. There is a massive surge in time and material, or T&M contracts, across the industry right now.
Because for a long time, fixed price agreements were the comfortable standard.
They were. But in a highly volatile tariff environment, signing a fixed price contract without heavy protections is essentially gambling with your company's balance sheet.
For the newer business owners listening, or maybe those who rely heavily on standard commercial templates, let's define the alternative to P&M. We often hear about the GMP, the Guaranteed Maximum Price contract.
Right.
Why is a standard GMP such a massive trap right now?
A guaranteed maximum price contract means the contractor commits to completing the project for a set number, regardless of what happens to material costs.
So if steel jumps 20% halfway through the build,
The owner still pays the same price, and the contractor eats the total loss. It comes straight out of their pocket.
that's terrifying.
To survive a GMP right now, you have to master the escalation clause.
But how do you write an escalation clause that actually holds water? I have seen contracts where someone just threw in a sentence that says prices may vary based on market conditions.
Yeah. Vague language like market conditions is nothing but a recipe for a costly lawsuit.
Right.
It will not hold up when you actually need it to protect your cash flow. The Practical Contractor Playbook dictates that your escalation clauses must be tied directly to a neutral third-party metric.
Like what?
The industry standard is the Bureau of Labor Statistics Producer Price Indexes, the BLS PPI. It provides a strict mathematical baseline that neither the contractor nor the owner can manipulate.
I understand the logic there. But let's put ourselves in the shoes of the contractor sitting in an OAC meeting, an owner-architect-contractor meeting. Getting an owner to agree to an escalation clause right now is incredibly tough.
It is. They are terrified of budget overruns.
Exactly. So how does a contractor actually negotiate this without losing the bid entirely?
The entire psychological approach to the negotiation has to change. You must frame the tariffs as a shared risk.
Shared risk.
Yes. To achieve owner buy-in, your escalation clauses must include both upward and downward adjustment.
Oh, that's interesting.
You have to look the owner in the eye and say, if steel spikes 20% according to the BLS PPI, the contract value increases to cover our costs. But if the market softens, or if the government suddenly drops the tariff and steel falls by 10%, we are contractually obligated to pass those exact savings directly back to you.
That completely flips the script. It changes the conversation from a contractor demanding a blank check to cover their own exposure into a true partnership where both sides are navigating a volatile market together.
Exactly. It disarms the owner's fear that the contractor is just padding the numbers.
Transparency builds trust.
And trust wins bids in a chaotic market. But winning the bid is only half the battle. The timeline of our industry's procurement phase is compressing at an alarming rate. We are officially witnessing the death of the 90-day bid.
Explain what is happening on the supplier side. Why are these windows shrinking so aggressively?
Suppliers are taking on entirely too much risk-holding prices for extended periods. We are seeing, quote, validity shortened from months down to just weeks, and in some cases, days.
To days.
Yes. The old standard of getting a lumber or steel, quote, sitting on it for 3 months while the owner finalizes their bank financing and expecting the supplier to honor that original number, those days are completely over.
Let's talk about the reality of the listener. If you are a $15 million commercial contractor, you probably do not have a massive siloed procurement department working in a glass high-rise.
No, you don't.
The owner or the senior project manager is likely making these supplier calls from the cab of their truck between job sites. If the quote is only good for 2 weeks, speed isn't just an advantage. It is entirely necessary for survival.
It is life or death for the project.
How does that guy in the truck get ahead of the supplier?
This is where leveraging specialized intelligence becomes the greatest asset your business can deploy. Based on Smart Business Automator's Marking Intelligence report, Commodity Tracking alerts subscribers to material price movements 2 to 3 weeks before mainstream press reports even hit the cycle.
A 2 to 3 week head start is the difference between a profitable job and a catastrophic loss.
It truly is.
It gives that project manager the runway they need to lock in prices before the suppliers revise their quotes upward. But here is the major operational bottleneck.
What's that?
A head start is completely useless if you don't have the time to act on it. If I am running a mid-sized crew, I am buried in admin work. I'm sorting through submittals, tracking down permits, and answering endless emails. What is the solution to that administrative bloat?
The solution is implementing systems that handle the heavy lifting on the back end. Take the RFI process, for example.
The request for information.
Right. It's the formal document a contractor sends to the architect when a blueprint is unclear or there is a site conflict. Drafting and tracking RFIs historically eats up hours of a project manager's week.
Easily.
But a platform like Smart Business Automator uses historical project data to actually draft those RFI responses for you.
It essentially acts as a highly efficient administrative assistant.
Precisely. It does the smart document organization, categorizing photos, permits, and submittals, so the team isn't digging through endless digital folders. It even features schedule risk detection and budget variance insights.
Because knowledge is only valuable when you have the operational freedom to apply it. Having the pricing data is step one.
And utilizing software to automatically identify budget changes and detect schedule bottlenecks is step two.
Right. When the software handles the busy work, your project managers can actually focus on high-stakes procurement strategies.
They have the time to negotiate those BLS PPI escalation clauses and lock down T&M contracts instead of drowning in daily log summaries.
So let's pull all of this together. We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today. Let's quickly recap the core message of this deep dive.
It's crucial they take this away.
The Supreme Court ruling did not solve the tariff problem for contractors. It just replaced it with a highly confusing timeline.
A timeline that favors the bold.
Right. The heavy hitters, steel, aluminum, copper, are still carrying 50% tariffs. Survival in this environment means actively abandoning the erred ways of doing business.
You need strict index-tied escalation clauses that feature shared risk.
You have to adapt your estimating process to handle radically shortened bid windows from your suppliers.
And you must utilize real-time market intelligence and operational software to stay ahead of the curve.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. To mull over something that builds directly on the timeline we discussed at the beginning.
This is the part that keeps me up at night.
Treasury Secretary Bessent has openly broadcasted that tariff rates will effectively return to pre-ruling levels by August. He drew a very clear, very public line in the sand for the entire economy.
Yes, he did.
My question to you is, what happens in July?
Oh man, when you frame it like that, it is a truly terrifying thought.
Right. If every developer, general contractor, and major supplier in the country knows that a massive tax increase is guaranteed to hit the market in August, will we see an unprecedented industry-wide panic buying spree in July?
And if that happens, it could create artificial material shortages and localized price spikes that are vastly worse than the actual tariffs themselves.
The current supply chain simply is not built to handle a sudden nationwide hoarding event.
It absolutely isn't.
You need to be planning for a potential July squeeze right now. That is exactly the kind of forward-thinking strategy that separates the companies that barely survive from the ones that build scaling legends.
Do not wait for the panic to hit the supply houses. Build your systems, refine your contracts, and equip your team today.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. If you found this discussion valuable for your business, please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review the show on your preferred listening platform.
It helps us tremendously to keep bringing you these insights.
Also, please share this deep dive with your colleagues, your project management team, or anyone in your professional network who needs to hear this breakdown before they sign their next fixed-price contract. And to learn more about the tools, the market tracking, and the intelligence we discussed today, be sure to visit smartbusinessautomator.com. Keep building, keep scaling, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.